134, be advised, Mary Queen, 27 associates with the suspect and the victim. West.
172, no water warrant.
You are listening to another edition of the Private Officer Talk Radio Network. Brought to you by Private Officer International, a security and law enforcement organization. Broadcasting today from Studio A. Now sit back, relax. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Glad that you are joining us for this kind of reunion, sort of type radio after we've been off for about a couple of months now, actually. We've had a lot going on, and we reformatted the radio program, and as you might have heard, we got some other big things working. I'm your host today, Rick McCann. I'm the founder and CEO of Private Officer International and Armor College, and I'm really glad that you're here with us, and especially after doing a little sabbatical and taking the holidays off. I do want to begin this episode explaining a little bit about the last 3 or 4 months. We've been really hit very hard with hurricanes during October, flooding in November, major ice storm in December. We've had in our neck of the woods in North Carolina and Virginia, we've had excessive and extreme types of weather that many other areas just have not experienced. And we're in the area where most of the storms either come from south to north, Gulf Coast area heading eastbound, or from the west across the whole country, eventually winding up on our doorsteps. And a lot of times that will bring all sorts of weather, crazy weather. It might start off as rain, and within a few hours the temperatures can drop 20, 30, or even more degrees, and we have extreme snow. And that's very true with hurricanes as well, and tornadoes. So we've had a lot of our members and even our staff who have been affected by this extreme weather pattern that we've seen in the last 4 months, and maybe even you have been affected. I know that several of our instructors in Florida was affected by the hurricanes. In fact, we have one of our members who is part of emergency management. He's a director of emergency management for his county. His house was completely demolished back during one of the hurricanes that hit the Panama City, Pensacola area. And we have had other of our members throughout the countries, including California, who have lost their homes because of wildfires, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. So we do ask that you keep everybody in your prayers and your thoughts. We've had a couple of fundraisers in the last few months, and we've been able to disperse that out to our members, and we've even helped some other folks along the way. All right, well, with that being said, we're going to get right back into our normal routines. We have a lot of information that we do want to share with you, a lot of news, of course, and today we're going to be talking about hospital security and how times are changing. We're going to be talking about restraints. We're going to be talking about, in this edition, just the various duties that hospital security and public safety now have to take on as part of, their job. And we're going to continue it next week from the legal side, and we're going to talk more about the issues that we've seen and the lawsuits regarding restraints and use of force against patients who might be either on a evaluation or a psych hold. And we'll be talking a lot about that today and next week on Sunday from the legal side, so you don't want to miss this good information. And, of course, it's free, so why wouldn't you really want to miss that kind of stuff when it's free? All right, we do have a lot of news as well that we're going to be sharing with you, and we want to, before I go any further, we want to invite you to send us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, your photos or information if you've been affected by the freaky weather that we've had in the last 4 or 5 months. If you're had home destruction, if you've lost your home, if you've been affected in any way, we'd love to hear, whether you're a member or not. And anytime that there's disasters and weather issues, you can almost bet 100% that one of our members will be affected, because we have members, many members in every state. We have members in about 40 countries. And so really it's not too hard to imagine that our people, our members, are going to be part of that storm. They're going to be part of that damage that's hit certain areas, neighborhoods. And we want you to involve us. Let us know when these things do occur. And if we're in the position to financially assist you as a member, we're going to do it. And if we're not, we're going to get some kind of fundraiser going. We'll do social media. We'll put you up, and collect money for you in whatever ways that we can. So please let us know, especially if you're a POI member, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@officer.com. We care about our members, and we want to help you. One of the things that's so different about our association, and I can speak clearly and authoritatively because I'm the owner and founder, but also because I belong to a good number of associations, and I have throughout the years. And I don't want to name names, but I can tell you that for the most part, all that they offer is a piece of paper. I am a member of a pretty elite police chiefs organization, and I am a member of a pretty elite school security and law enforcement association, and they do have some, rather nice member packets that they send out, much better than ours, but we're going to redesign ours. That's one of the things that we are working on. But other than that, and the certificate and the member card, no, I can truthfully tell you that there was nothing else that came along with it, and there was no other type of support. They do have a website, and they do send out a newsletter once a week, both of them, and they do have an awards program. But, other than that, there's no real physical support. They're not really on the phone with us every day saying, hey, how's it going, Rick? Hey, John, Jeff, Joe. No, they're an association. They're there to collect as many members as they can because the strength is in numbers, and they do a few things for the members, but it's not a supportive group. We're very supportive, and we're here to support you, our member. That's how we differ. Some of you have been involved in some major incidents on duty. Some of you have been involved in fatal shootings on duty. Some of you have been injured while on duty. As a member of our association, we've reached out to you immediately as soon as our news department or staff was made aware of it. We've assisted many members and many who are not members. And we're there for the industry as well as our members. So that's kind of what makes us different. We do offer charitable different things that we do, benefits, services. We also work with Crime Stoppers and news agencies and law enforcement agencies whenever an officer is injured or killed and police are searching for that suspect. So we are different. We are here for you. One of the things that I have noticed in 15 years that really, I want to say is kind of, I don't know. I've never really been able to put my fingers on it, but it's a little disturbing, and is kind of a mystery, and that is that not many members reach out to us. Not many members call, write, or email us telling us, hey, you know what, I was attacked last night on duty. I was in a car wreck and I'm out of work for 3 months. I lost my wife to cancer. There are some people who have done that, but not as many as you would think. So, if you need help, if you need to talk to someone, we have counselors and ministers. We have people that are available 24/7. Please don't feel like you don't have anyone there. You can contact us, and we will be there for you. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Private Officer International. I'm your host, Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer, Armor College, and several other businesses. But today we're talking about hospital security. We're talking about patient restraint and how the times have changed and the duties and the responsibilities have changed for hospital security. So today and next week on From the Legal Side, we'll be talking about these subjects. And we're very glad that you have joined us for this most recent episode, because we do have a lot of things to say and we want to include you in it. Well, we are going to share a lot of different upcoming things with you on the next segment when we do come back from our break. We have a lot of great things to tell you about, and as we always do, actually. But we have a lot of big happenings going on this spring, summer, fall, and winter in 2019. And we want to share that with you today, right after we come back from this break. And, of course, while we're on the radio today, if you want to send us an email, ask a question, send it to helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and we'll answer those questions on the air today. Thank you for listening to the Private Officer Beat. We're coming right back right after these messages.
Federal Aviation Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
It's a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
All right, we are at the news desk, and we've got a lot to share with you. It's always one breaking story after the other. Did I mention that we're in springtime in North Carolina, and it's gorgeous, gorgeous out. It's like a breath of fresh air. The temperature is supposed to reach 77. The windows are open. The heat and the AC are off. We've got breeze coming left, right, west, east. It's beautiful this morning. What's not so beautiful on the wire this morning, breaking news, a Virginia state trooper has been killed while serving a search warrant in Cumberland County, Virginia, and he was shot and killed by a suspect Looks like tactical squad returned fire, striking the suspect. Right now, the name of the trooper has yet to be released. This morning, we also have breaking news of a Allied Universal security officer in Syracuse, New York, who opened fire on his ex-girlfriend and several male subjects inside a Denny's restaurant. Police say that there had been an ongoing conflict. The off-duty security officer, we understand, was in uniform. When he entered that restaurant, he opened fire, hitting two men and his ex-girlfriend. He is in custody, charged with attempted murder, several counts of felonious assault, and a number of other charges. Now, the Associated Press has reported exactly what the Syracuse.com news has reported, and that is the suspect is a armed, licensed security officer for Allied Universal, that he is licensed to carry a firearm, and other than that, we don't have a whole lot of detail. He may or may not have had prior criminal record. We don't know, but we are checking into this. Very, very tragic indeed. Whenever a security officer on or off duty has to use lethal force, but in this case it was off the chart, unnecessary. Police say Justice Holmes will remain in custody at this time. Private officers in St. Cloud, Minnesota over the weekend helped police nab two men who were shooting behind several businesses recklessly for no apparent reason. They were just popping off rounds during the day. Luckily, nobody was injured, nobody was shot, but thankfully the security officers went to investigate. They were able to detain one man and assist police locating the second. Both are in custody today. Police in Chicago say a police officer, female officer, did commit suicide. She used her own service weapon, and it's just another tragedy in suicides for police, law enforcement, and security, as we're seeing more police officers killed every year by their own hand than by suspects. We mentioned earlier about the TSA officer who jumped in the Orlando International Airport. Police have confirmed that was a suicide, and we do have about 6 to 10 on-duty confirmed suicides of security officers every year, but we know that number is actually higher, probably quite a bit higher. We just are not able to confirm them to know for sure. A Fort Lauderdale security officer working at a public store was pepper sprayed a few days ago while confronting a suspect who had pepper sprayed several people inside the store and creating a disturbance. That subject was taken into custody. His name's not been released. He's facing a number of charges as well. Back in Chicago, Illinois, where a 13-year-old in Indiana was arrested after they asked Siri, or told Siri, that they were going to shoot up their school. Someone else heard about this. Also happening in the news today, we had a accidental discharge of a firearm inside a church in South Carolina. This sounds more negligent than accidental. The security officer, a volunteer, was doing some training inside one of the classrooms and said he had left his weapon unloaded on a windowsill, but when he went to put the magazine back in, he forgot that there was still one in the chamber and accidentally discharged a round into the floor. Now, police were called several hours after the fact. they investigated. At this time, no criminal charges are pending. I won't go into the do's and don'ts about carrying a firearm and when you're unloading and loading, but most of you listening should know, and I'm sure that you do know the rules, but this really is just a little bit too much. It should not have happened, and hopefully there's some further outcome. Also in the news, like I said, we've always got news here. A Rochester Transit Center security officer was stabbed. She was unarmed and trying to break up a confrontation when this occurred, according to police. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of unarmed security officers out there. We don't know the condition of her just yet, but she was transported to a local hospital. A Border Patrol agent was struck and killed during a traffic stop. This happened in Abilene, Texas, a few days ago. She was crossing the interstate when she was hit by a car. Seems like down in Brownsville, Texas, two security companies are battling it out for contracts at the Border Patrol detention centers. There's some conflicts and things happening back and forth in that situation. Very big article about that over the weekend that you might want to read as well. Do you typically get our newsletters? Do you get our breaking news? Are you on our mailing list? If not, go to privateofficer.org and be sure to sign up today. It's free. It's valuable information that you're not going to see or get anyplace else. And it's educational, and many companies and instructors also use it for their classrooms. This news
slow down.
And move over.
When you see lights, vest,
Or reflectors. Please, give us some room. Slow down.
And move over.
we look out for you.
So look out for us.
Please,
Please,
please.
Slow down. And move over.
It's the law.
it's the law. It's the law.
In today's episode, we do want to talk for a few moments about the changing methods of providing security for medical centers and hospitals. We're seeing a lot of different facilities having to address challenges of more armed patients, the growing number of patient suicides within the hospital. We're seeing more hospitals having to go on lockdown because of armed people within the facility or disturbance, especially in the ER. There are times when gang members and large families come to the ER after their family or gang member has been shot, and that's oftentimes will cause a shutdown or a lockdown. And there's a lot of different new duties some weapons, and some other methods of securing the medical facility, hospital, and that's what we want to talk about today. Of course, not all hospitals are the same. Not all hospitals are the same type. Not all facilities do the same thing. They may be called hospital, they may be called medical center, but they're not all equal. First of all, hospitals may or may not be trauma units, trauma 1, 2, or 3, 1 being the highest level, meaning that they have personnel from all areas on duty all the time, that they have all the equipment necessary to handle even the most severe catastrophe, the most severe trauma, the most severe crisis happening within a region, and they also will always have a medical hospital helicopter assigned to them as well. But these facilities are growing. In a time when healthcare really in all areas is jumping off the chart, medical facilities are building and growing and establishing new units and new types of services, and it's the growth in population, it's the aging of the population, it's the more severe traumas that we're seeing, gunshots, stabbings, car wrecks with injuries, and workplace violence, workplace injuries. So there's a great need, even in the smallest of community, for a good-sized medical facility. With this, they oftentimes have physician outbuildings, radiology, all sorts of cancer treatment and other specialties in outlying buildings, making it a true campus similar to a university or college rather than just one building hospital. Hospital of today is really not a whole great difference in what they do, but the size is much different than 20 or 30 years ago. What does that do for providing security and safety for that facility? Obviously, there's a lot more happening. Let's just start with the traffic control. Parking, a lot more vehicles in and out of the property, a lot more vehicles needing to park someplace, making there to be more traffic control issues, more parking issues, more violations, more accidents. You're also going to see more parking headaches when you have parking structures. Also on the facility, you're going to have more foot traffic. These are going to be patients, families of patients, visitors, employees, and oh yes, those who don't belong. Hospitals are open campuses, no gates, very few locks, no barriers, no borders. Anyone at any time can enter someplace in the campus. Now, usually after business hours, certain hospitals go on and secure some of the areas, some of the doors, and others will direct that traffic in through the ER, but not always. So you never know at any given time who is on property. So you have a lot more access control issues because it's not really a locked, secured property. Hospitals have a lot of issues. Hospitals historically have had theft issues. Theft from patients, theft from employees, theft from the pharmacy, theft from the facility itself, and theft from vehicles, burglaries. Anytime that you break into a vehicle, break into a locked office, a locked structure, a storage building, it's a burglary. A lot of people call it a robbery or a theft, but it's actually a burglary. So you have more burglaries because it's an open campus. You have, in this day and age, a much higher degree of intoxication and drug abuse on the property, both coming through the ER as patients, as well as people that may be visiting, people who are on the property maybe legitimately, but they may be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So we have much more problem with this than probably in years past. We also have a lot more crimes, disturbances, assaults, sexual abuse, robberies, and yes, even shootings and murders do occur on hospital property. So how can we, as private security, public safety, how can we help? How can we better detect, deter, apprehend? How can we be more vigilant in our service? That's what we want to talk about today, because really the job, duties, and responsibilities of hospital, public safety, security are similar than years past, but they've had a large number of added duties, a large number of challenges thrown onto them, and there has been a change. There's fundamental things that are the same, but many changes have come in the last 20, 30 years, and we have to stay on top of that. One of those changes, I briefly touched on it a moment ago, is more intoxication and more drug abuse. Now, we see a great number in the last 3 or 4 years of opioid overdoses coming through our ER. We see a much higher degree of our own employees abusing drugs on the property, whether it be out in their vehicle on break or lunch, or right there inside the facility. No. You might not hear about it. It might not make your local news or major news. It might not be on the 6 o'clock, but it's happening. As a public safety officer, a security officer for a hospital, your duty of enforcing policy hasn't changed. One of the things that private security personnel do, and many people don't realize this, is they do enforce the rules, the policies of the property, and even they can enforce the law. They can detain a suspect who's committed a crime on the property. In many states, we talk about this quite frequently. They even can arrest the suspect. These are challenges because we need to have better training on the code, the state statutes. We need to have better training on taking someone into custody. We need to have better training on recognizing drugs, what type of drugs they are. There's a big difference between crystal meth and heroin, oxycodone and aspirin. There's a big difference between what one area of the country may be using more frequently, and depending on where we're located, our area could be more heroin than meth, while another area might be more marijuana than coke. You know, it changes.
and we need to know what those changes are. We need to be able to recognize those drugs, and we need to be able to know how to handle them. There certainly has been a lot of changes in the medical facility security arena, and one of the other changes is psych patients. Now, we've always brought severe alcoholic individuals and those having some type of mental health issue to a facility to be assessed, and some facilities do have holding areas where they hold the person for 48, 72 hours. And so next time when we get together, we're going to talk about that as well, because that's a duty that really has been transferred a lot to the security department to monitor, to restrain patients who get out of control. And when we start putting hands on people, not only is there a great liability, but you could also face criminal charges if you do it incorrectly. And we need to know what we're doing. So we're going to be talking about that on the next episode of From the Legal Side. And we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and they understand what they can and cannot do. Some of the other issues that we see at the hospital is we do see a rise in burglaries. We see a rise in assault on staff members, whether it be security or nurses, doctors, or other clinicians or staff. How do you handle that? You know, the hospital has to have a clear policy as to if they call security because they've been assaulted, they have to have a policy that the police will be called and the police will handle it and make that arrest. We don't want to release people who have assaulted us, especially if we have restrained them in any environment, whether it's a hospital or a school or a factory. If they've assaulted us and we've had to restrain them, we've had to go hands-on, and we've had to use force, then we definitely want the police to be involved and we want them arrested, because if we don't, we've opened up Pandora's box and we're going to have lawsuit. We're going to be accused of all sorts of things that we didn't do, and it could make the media. You as an individual could lose your job. You could be sued. The company could be sued. So making the arrest, having the person prosecuted, helps the process, especially if they go to court and they plead guilty or they're found guilty in trial. Then the lawsuit issue is diminished because they've already been found guilty of the crime. That's going to conclude this week's episode, the Private Officer Beat. Next week, when we come back, on the legal side, we will talk about restraining psych patients and the different types of psych patients and the different type of patients. And some we can't lay hands on unless they break the law. Until then, as we always say, we ask that you be safe, be blessed, and of course, we'll see you back here on the radio. For now, I'm your host, Rick McCann, signing off. Have a great week.